is, and just really, I think, you know.
And you have an observation.
I am. I'm making another observation this evening. I think to the question specifically about arts and its playment and how it plays, I should say, is, you know, if I talk to Allie, we're friends, and I may talk to her about something, you know, business or finance related or fundraising related or something like, hey, or even if we're talking about Leonia and the tax increases and all that other stuff that's going on. And my priority is different than hers because she's a true artist. I love art, music, painting, all of it. But artists can't breathe if they're not making art. That's sort of what I found. I can't breathe if I'm not trying to solve a problem somewhere. I get like real cagey and restless. And I think to segue into the economics of all of this, if you can't, you know, there's some nobility attached to like the starving artist, right? But if you can't lift your head up, if your life is trying to survive and to pay your taxes and to support your family and to pay tuition and to pay the increased car insurance and gas and food costs and everything, then that part of your soul is suppressed. You can't think about art for the average person because that, in my mind, has always been a bit of a luxury. Because if it's not producing sustenance for my family, then I don't have the luxury of participating directly. And so I think that part of how we can make sure the arts have a chance to flourish more is to solve some of these problems on a local level, and then it would scale naturally, and some of these solutions I think are really well articulated. But the idea is, if you can't afford to pay the rent or the mortgage or put fuel in the car or whatever that is, your mind, you know, support me on this if you can. I read a study that economics, poverty lowers IQ among populations over time. So if you're in a poverty-stricken environment, generationally, there'll be lower IQ outcomes because there's not just all the indirect impacts of that, but the stress, the struggle, the misery that comes with living in that environment over time. It doesn't allow us to be actualized. It doesn't allow us to be the people of service that can say, no, I got this all covered. Let me go do something for somebody else and be that person of service.
But the idea that I was getting at least, is both the arts should be something that inspires you, that gives you, maybe not so that raison d'etre, but gives you some inspiration that makes you feel motivated in what you do to earn a living and inspires you to become engaged. So it kind of goes both ways, right? I mean, sure, you need your focus, your priority is putting bread on the table and basic quality of life things. I think it needs to be supplemented, right? Because you got to have some meaning, and whether it comes from maybe from a house of worship or something, or from the arts that are maybe an irrational mode of inspiring us in our daily lives and brighten the banal parts of our lives. So
it needs new messaging. I mean, that's the point. What you're asking for is an inspiration that needs new messaging, and we need new myths, and that's the job of the artist of the society, to create the myths. And I think the first step to doing that, and I think we're headed in that direction, because we have just worn out all the old, we've kept the same messages are repeating and repeating, and the audiences are. The arts have rendered themselves meaningless.
Except in new local
Except
theaters
in new-
that are
exactly.
amending America and other fresh art.
And what